to show you this exchange from the Alberta Legislature last week. It's between Premier Rachel Notley and the Leader of the Official Opposition, Wildrose MLA for Fort McMurray Conklin, Brian Jean. It's about water bomber contracts. Just listen.
Albertans are worried that the NDP doesn't know what a serious threat these wildfires are. We are down from 22 tankers in 2014 to only 16 today. Cutting back contracts from 123 days to 93 days is scaring bidders and Albertans away and could shrink our tanker fleet even further. It means all these contracts will expire by early August with less resources. How can the Premier possibly defend these types of decisions, putting our communities in Alberta at risk?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't have to defend those types of decisions because we didn't make those types of decisions because the member opposite once again has his facts wrong. We have the resources that we need. They are in place in Fort McMurray. I get briefed at least twice a day. We are very concerned about this issue, and every single resource that is needed to fight that fire will be dedicated. No holds barred.
First supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, they cut the budget for fighting forest fires. They did it. Nobody else did it. They need to take responsibility. This is serious. It's only May, and we can't just hope for wet weather to come around and to help. We need to get these decisions right. In February, a tender was issued for a water skimming air tanker group. On April 29th, this government cancelled the tender. All water skimming aircraft currently contracted are from Abbotsford, BC-based Conair. Can the Premier please explain right now to Albertans why this contract was scrapped and why we are settling for slower, short-range, small, less-capacity water tanker aircraft?
Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, as I have indicated to the member opposite a number of different times, the overall number of resources that will be dedicated to fighting fires are exactly the same as they were before, and in fact they could go up if the need goes up. The fact of the matter is this is about budgeting, how we profile the budget, but we've made it very clear, and all the contractors know full well that when we need them, they need to be there. They are there. They are being hired. Every resource that is required is being dedicated to this fire, Mr. Speaker, and the members opposite should stop the fear-mongering.
Now this is the Martin Mars. It's Canada's largest water bomber. It's staged at Sprout Lake, BC, a short flight away from Fort McMurray. It could have been involved in the fight against the massive wildfire nicknamed the Beast by Fort Mac Fire Chief Darby Allen, but it isn't. The bomber isn't and won't be because it wasn't asked to be here by Alberta government officials. In response to the many demands and questions of concerned people wondering just why the company hasn't sent their massive water bomber in to help with the fires in Fort Mac, Martin Mars owner Coulson Flying Tankers released this statement. Now it's a little bit long, but bear with me because it's very important. Firstly, if there was a request by the Alberta government to contract the Martin Mars, we would do everything in our power to support the request. In fact, we have offered one of our C-130s that could be made available immediately to the Alberta government. However, they currently do not see a need for it at the moment. We have our crews for it on standby regardless. Next to the Mars at 7,200 US gallons, our C-130s are the largest propeller-driven air tankers in the world with a 4,400 US gallon capacity. Secondly, in the firefighting business, it is the government that has operational control of the aircraft. No aircraft operator in the world can simply go and put out a fire, even if they wanted to. And if someone ever did, they would be facing serious criminal charges. So, everyone, the bomber was ready and available earlier this year for the Alberta government to hire to fight fires, but it wasn't contracted. Didn't Rachel Notley just tell Brian Jean something different? The Premier said that every single resource that is needed to fight the fire will be dedicated, no holds barred. I guess except for hiring the Martin Mars when you could, or hiring the C-130 bomber in flight crew that Coulson Flying Tankers is graciously offering us. The government hasn't taken Coulson up on their offer because the government says they just don't see the need. If there is no need for extra tankers in Fort Mac, when will there ever be a need? And it's important to note that later on that day, after that exchange between Jean and Notley, after he was accused by the Premier of fear-mongering, Brian Jean's own house burned down in the fire at Fort McMurray. But here is where it gets nuts. Here is where we know the Premier isn't telling the truth. Just listen to this.
We have the same number of tankers and we have access to the same number of tankers and all the same amount of equipment that we had before, and we will use that and more if necessary, Mr. Speaker, because we are concerned about getting the job done in Fort McMurray. We are not interested in engaging in political grandstanding and fear-mongering.
No, Premier. Some tankers aren't available now. We know that from what Coulson Flying Tankers said. Notley flat out lied. Notley lied for 20 seconds straight. She lied to the face of a man trying to save his own community, right to his face. There aren't as many water bombers on contract this year as last. And Notley certainly isn't using that and more, as she says, to fight the fires. In fact, now we know she hasn't taken up Coulson Flying Tankers on their offer of the C-130. And even if the government tried to hire the Martin Mars, they can't. Not anymore. This is because the government did not heed the warnings that this would be an early and especially fierce wildfire season and contract with the appropriate amount of water tankers. It's too late. Those tankers are gone. They're probably working somewhere else. The bomber companies are now left doing what they can just to pay the bills, whether that's sending the Martin Mars to an air show in Wisconsin or taking contracts in other provinces or states to fight fires. These are just companies that are trying to make sure they still have a company to operate next year to fight fires. And who can blame them? Because I sure don't. Now, I'm a small C conservative. There are not a lot of things that I think of as things the government should do. But wildfire management is probably one of them. Keeping fires, forest fires, from burning down our houses and our communities seems like one of those public safety things we should all be okay expecting the government to do for us. Last year, the province spent $500 million on wildfires when only $200 million were budgeted. The department is consistently underfunded, and Notley underfunded it again, so badly that tankers are going elsewhere. In all the government spending in Alberta, with the highest per capita spending in the country, one place Rachel Notley saw fit to cut was wildfire management. She did not make a single cut to bureaucracy and health and government. No, nothing. Not a penny of inefficiency could be found there, I guess. The only places she would cut were agriculture and the safety of Alberta's forest communities. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.